Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Mondays with Michelle video. This week's topic, fire insurance maps. We'll talk about what they are, where to find them, and how they can help you visualize the area where your ancestors lived. Let's get started. So what I thought I would go over is fire insurance maps. So what I did was went to Family Search, Research Wiki. So I did search, Research Wiki, and typed in Sanborn insurance maps. Sanborn is the company that is probably the best known. They did the fire insurance maps for the United States. They also did some for a few other countries as well, but certainly for US fire maps, they are the name that you would be most familiar with. So the nice thing is this wiki page gives you just a little bit of background information. It gives you links to the Library of Congress website, which has an excellent online insurance map collection, and that's what I'm going to show you next. So if you click on Library of Congress Sanborn Maps or Library of Congress Sanborn Fire Insurance Maps collection, you come to this particular website, and I'll just scroll to the top. So here's the Library of Congress website. And we have this menu across the top here. We're looking at the Sanborn Maps collection under the About This Collection tab. And the nice thing is it gives you a really good explanation of the color coding that's used on the maps, because the purpose of these maps was to indicate the basically fire hazard, which determined their insurance premium. So if a building was wood, for example, they would probably be paying much more for insurance than if it was brick or stone, because the risk of fire and loss of the building would be much higher if it was a wooden structure. So this gives you some really useful information. It also talks about some of the abbreviations used so that you can get some idea of what they're referring to. So this is a really useful page to read through to get an idea of what is actually included on the maps and how to interpret the information. If we click on collection items, what you are seeing here is the list of maps, and you notice there are 35,094 images. These are just all of the ones that are available online. And to search for a particular map, I mean, you could page all the way through them. However, since there are 35,094 items, I would suggest instead you put in the name of the place at the top. So for instance, insurance map Boston, insurance map Seattle, so that you can then limit it to just the maps for the particular area you're talking about. And even though Sanborn was a company that focused a lot on US fire insurance maps, they also did coverage for parts of Canada, and I believe Cuba. They have some for Cuba. So it is worth taking a look and just typing in the name of the particular place that you want to look at. They also have different articles and essays about the collection. So if we go to if we go back to this about this collection, they've got this table of contents at the side, including this how to view maps and this geography and map reading room. And if you clicked on the geography and map reading room, you come into a different type of window. And if we scroll down, this is the fire insurance maps. But by the way, the Library of Congress map reading room has all kinds of interesting maps. They have Civil War maps, Indian land cessions. So if you have ancestors who came to the United States, some of these online collections might have some really useful clues for you. But what we're going to do is look at the fire insurance map. So when I click this link, it brought me to this search page, which in my opinion is a much simpler way of searching for the insurance maps instead of just scrolling through that long list of 35,000 entries. So what you can do is you can select a country. And as you can see, they have limited coverage for Canada. They have a few for Cuba, a few for Mexico. And if you wanted to search in the States, because you notice this country search says excluding United States, down below, you can search by state. And what I did was I searched on Washington State, since that's the state that is immediately south of me across the border. You can also search on building type or other keyword like a city. And they've got some other information down here, links to that detail page that explain the color coding. So you can get to that information directly from this search page as well. So I selected the state of Washington and clicked search. And it brings you to this list of towns, of cities within the state of Washington. And I decided to pick a large city like Seattle and look at their maps. So I clicked on the link here for Seattle. And it's now giving me a list of all of the Sanborn fire insurance maps that are available for the city of Seattle. And it gives the dates. So I thought they've got one back to July 1884. They've got in 1888, 1893. So as you can see, there is a real range of maps, some of them quite early. So here it's showing the number of sheets that they have digitized. So there are 9 images associated with this 1884 map. There's 38 sheets with the 1888 map. So I selected this first link, clicked on it, and came to this sheet. And I'll just use these plus and minus. Let's just shrink it down a bit so you can see. So this is one sheet, and the very first sheet of the groups of maps, there's some interesting information. If I enlarge it, you'll notice we have color-coded blocks that are numbered. This one's 8, 7, 5, 2, 3. Each of those color-coded blocks is linked to a separate sheet. So there is a sheet, number 8, that has the enlarged detail of this blue rectangle. Sheet number 7 has the enlargement of that pink area. What's interesting too is on the first page of these groups of Sanborn maps, you will find either at the bottom or perhaps over to the right, they will have this index. And often it will have two sections. It is basically a street index listing main buildings. There is also a special section that will identify prominent businesses or key industry. So here, for instance, you've got churches and hotels, the theater. So kind of main businesses listed. And it tells you what sheet those businesses are on. So in order to go to a specific sheet, you've got this drop-down list here. If I wanted to see the Bijou Theater, well, it's listed on both sheet number 2 and sheet number 3. The Baptist Church is on sheet 4, so I would select sheet 4 to see where the Baptist Church is. So what I did was I went to, here's the enlarged version. I wanted to look at, I believe it was section 4. I wanted to look at sheet 4. And you notice each of these little squares are numbered. So this particular section, this sheet 4, is going to have the squares going from 28 all the way down to 19. 19, 18. Oh, looks like it'll have 18 and 17 as well. So I'm now going to go to this sheet 4. So if I select sheet 4 and click go, it's brought me to this particular sheet. And if I enlarge it, you can start to see the details of all the businesses. So here's an insurance office. Here's another office. We've got hardware. Here we've got a bakery, a jewelry store, a candy manufacturing store, another hardware store. And you start to get a sense of what the buildings were like, what businesses were there. We've got the newspaper printing office. You've got lawyers' offices. DWG was dwelling. We've got rooming houses, lodgings. So it's interesting to see just what appears. We've got a bank, tailor, barber. This is all the hotel building, the Occidental Hotel. We've got the kitchen for the hotel office, baggage room. So it's really quite detailed as to what you can see. Now, I decided to look at the insurance map for a much smaller town. Seattle is a major city, much like Vancouver, much like Toronto. So I decided to look at Blaine, Washington, which is quite small. And I looked at its map. So again, it does have this same index of places. And I decided I was going to look at sheet 5, which has the Bank of Blaine. And again, it gives you a really good idea of the kinds of businesses that served these towns in that era. We've got a saloon and billiards, the barber shop, the saloon, plumber and tin shop. Again, saloons were very popular. Here's the Bank of Blaine. We've got a confectionery shop, grocery, grain and feed, hay. So you start to get a really good idea of what life was like just looking at the arrangement of buildings. This is the billiards, candy, and cigars. We've got furnished rooms. We've got probably a restaurant, ice cream, and lodgings. So again, just really interesting seeing the arrangement of stores and what goods they sold. The numbers, the 2B, means it was 2 stories and it had a basement. And some of these buildings, it will show dimensions, just depends where you are looking. You're noticing there's measurements here, so it's giving feet and inches. So you do get quite a good picture of what's going on. So that's the Library of Congress website. I also wanted to show you for some of the Canadian fire insurance maps. This is University of Calgary website, and it's a really good website with general information and links to a number of different places. So a lot of the fire insurance plans are available through the Library and Archives Canada website, and you can see there are links to plans for a number of provinces. Now, the Library and Archives Canada website has been redesigned, so a lot of these links don't work. However, what I will give you in the handout is the links to the correct pages. So when I clicked on the Library and Archives Canada website, this is basically the fire insurance plan collection. So you can search for particular plans by just adding the province or town to the words fire insurance map to limit it. But for example, if I just scroll down, you can see here's fire insurance map for Quebec for 1908. Here's one for Niagara Falls, Ontario, 1913. Here's Mont Tremblant in Quebec, 1908. So there is a lot of information. We've got Vancouver, British Columbia, 1914. If we go back to this University of Calgary page and we want to look at the maps for Calgary itself, they have a web app that you can use. And I clicked on that and it brought me in to this map here. And this is Calgary Fire Insurance Plans, 1911 to 1970s. And the way this works, and this is kind of neat because this is all overlaid on basically a modern map. So over on the right here, if I turn all of these map layers off, I'm looking at what is effectively something like a Google map. This is a modern map of the city of Calgary. So I could type in an address here to go to that particular address, see where it is, then turn these fire insurance map layers on to see which square would apply to the particular place I wanted to look at. So let's say the address I was interested in was in this square here, square 13. If I click on the square and then click this little arrow at the top, that brings me to the digital options, the digital copies of the maps, and they have 2 fire maps. They've got a 1911 and a 1914 revised. If I click on the 1911, it is showing me the enlarged version, the fire map for that area. And again, it's identifying this is a hotel, so you can look at this information and get, again, a sense of what was available, what buildings were there. So that's the University of Calgary's web app. University of Toronto also has some fire insurance plans. And if we take a look at their fire insurance plans, they have the same idea. It's a map, and if you click on one of these sections, and if you click the thumbnail to view the image, I've got one of the images up. Again, it is showing the detailed map. What's nice about this one, you notice it's showing the owner's name for a lot of these properties. So you could use this information in conjunction with directories and census records to get a clear picture of the particular businesses. If it doesn't identify the business, you've got the street addresses here. So this particular building right here is number 308 Jarvis Street. So they've got them all identified. So you would be able to figure out, even if they don't say what the business is, you would be able to figure out, looking at a directory, which buildings they were talking about, since they've got the street addresses here. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Don't forget to download the handout. You'll find the links in the video description at the bottom of your screen. You may need to click Show More to see the handout links. Thanks for watching.